Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. And we also welcome today one of our most extraordinary guests. Her name is Sharon Robinson. Her new book is called Testing the Ice, a true story about Jackie Robinson, and it's illustrated by a gentleman the name of Kadir Nelson. Thanks for coming by.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jim.
I can't get over the fact of all the stuff you do.
Multitasking. Restlessness or something.
It must be because you had an extraordinary father who
did many things at one time.
Yes, and he could play a little second base and steal them, and just one of the greatest ball players and greatest human beings we've had around ever. And you have become quite an author in the sense of being prolific. Mm-hmm. I mean, we started out with what did we start out with?
Stealing
Promises
Home.
to Keep.
Well, in terms of children's books, we started with Jackie's 9 in 2000.
Jackie's 9, okay.
And then went to Promises to Keep.
Then Promises to Keep.
And then my 2 novels.
Promises to Keep is how Jackie Robinson changed America.
Yes, it's a photographic biography of Jackie Robinson.
That's the kind of a biography.
Yes.
That's the book I remember the most, I think.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah. Jackie's 9 is Jackie's Values to Live By.
Correct.
And then there are a couple of books with very actiony type jackets. One is called Slam Dunk.
Correct.
And what's that about?
It's about his slam dunk. He jumper runs for 6th grade.
Oh, it's a jumper.
It's a jumper series.
Series.
Yes, he runs for 6th grade office.
All right.
And he's got to excel. So it's about soaring.
And then there's another book starring Jumper.
Yes, that's Safe at Home.
Safe at Home.
Actually, that was book 1.
That was the first.
So that's his big transition summer.
Okay.
6 months after his dad dies.
And then we come to the current book called Testing the Ice, a very important subtitle, a true story about Jackie Robinson, illustrated by Kadir Nelson, published, we must say, by Scholastic Press.
Absolutely.
One of the things that is interesting about this book in terms of your writing career is it is your first, and I don't like this phrase, but this is what they call it, so-called picture book.
Yes, absolutely.
Does this make you work in a different way?
Oh, yes, it does. Because it's in the moment. So I'm back to being a 5-year-old girl, experiencing my father testing the ice at our home in Stamford, Connecticut for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm back that adoring daughter, and life is still wonderful because I'm only 5.
We get a little further into the book. I'm going to talk about an illustration where you are one of the smilingest 5-year-olds I have ever seen, and that's due to Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And it says here in the notes that you and Kadir have become friends.
We have.
When did you
I
first
loved
meet
his
him?
work. Well, I first met him in San Diego at a baseball game when we were honoring the Negro
Leagues.
Of course. And he tells it one way that I met him, and he swears that I yelled down the tunnel to him, "You're going to illustrate my book."
Of
course, I said, "Not me. I'm
no.
I wouldn't do that. Not soft-spoken."
Sharon is much too reserved, folks, to be yelling down a tunnel at some artist.
But I actually first saw his art when I was actually in a restaurant, and I said, "Who is that?"
Uh-huh.
And so I admired him before I ever met him or knew he was a children's book illustrator.
Yeah, and this is I'm always surprised to learn this over and over again when I interview children's book authors that they usually do not know their illustrators.
Isn't that amazing? I'm so glad I didn't even know that. No, I'm very happy I didn't know that. So when I went to Scholastic, we went as a team that I would be writing and Kadir would be illustrating, and they loved the partnership. So it worked out great for us.
And in fact, you tell the story about one of the most exciting moments in the creation of the book. You and your mom were at the publisher's office, and what happened?
Yes. Diane Hess, who was the editor, called me up and said, the art is in and it's awesome. So my mother and I hopped in a taxi, rushed down to Scholastic, and we were in her small little office with the president of Scholastic, Ellie Berger, and Therese Mulatto. We're all peering over this art, and Diane is reading, and we're peeling back this just astonishingly beautiful and bold.
Bold, I like that.
The bold.
And,
yes.
and powerful.
And powerful.
The faces are so strong and wonderful.
And I knew that because this story needed that level of needed that kind of art. So I was so happy that he delivered.
We're going to talk about some of those illustrations a little later. But enough of the background. When we return, we're going to dig into Testing the Ice, the true story about Jackie Robinson. We're going to look at the story. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.
Sharon Robinson is the guest. Her new book is called Testing the Ice, a true story about Jackie Robinson. It's illustrated by Kadir Nelson, beautifully illustrated, published by Scholastic Press. And we were just talking to each other off air about one of the most incredible things about this book is the way your words go together with Nelson's illustrations. It is unbelievable.
Yes, it's
unbelievable.
Like we were working together at the same time.
And some of the illustrations are so powerful. I just have to talk about one.
Okay.
The one where he has a shot of young men in their Negro League uniforms. Each guy has KC on his chest in large letters. The New York Mets did that this summer. They
wore a throwback uniform.
Yeah, they did a throwback uniform, and with huge letters just like that.
Right. Well, that's actually the Kansas City Monarchs.
The Monarchs, yeah.
Monarchs, yes. It was when my father played one season in the Negro Leagues. And it's from that season that Branch Rickey sent his scouts out.
Right.
And brought my father in.
Yeah.
But that is incredible. And I love, again, the second story being the backstory of my father breaking the color barrier. Yeah. So the sepia tone that Tadiri used.
Yeah. Well, that's where the book begins with the backstory. The 1955 World Series. Jackie steals home in the first game, and the Dodgers win the series in 7 in their fourth try at trying to beat the Yankees in the World Series. And the city of New York, or at least the Brooklyn part of it, went absolutely bananas.
Yes. It was a very exciting moment.
They had a lot of nuns praying for Gil Hodges. I remember that.
Yes, they did.
Who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at the time. Oh, that same year was the year that Jackie moved the family to Stamford, Connecticut. And it was the year before his retirement. And there is a picture in here of a very happy little girl in the corner of the picture. This is a very beautiful, bucolic picture.
Yeah.
It's Jack with the whole family against a wonderful bluish kind of sky. And it says here that he walked in protest marches Jackie did alongside Martin Luther King Jr., raised money for the civil rights movement, and best of all, he was home more.
Yes.
And who's that little girl in the corner with that smile?
Very, very happy. I'm the only girl. That's one reason to be very happy in that family.
That's true, yeah.
But yes, we'd moved to Stamford, Connecticut, and Dad was winding down his career with Major League Baseball.
That is precious. That says I'm happy he's home more.
Yeah, I am happy.
Like no number of words could possibly say. Then the story of segregation, the backstory, as we say in the biz, the story of segregation in our country as reflected in baseball in Jackie's own life.
Yes.
The business of not being able to ride in the same conveyances, not eat in the same places. And this was going on, and it was, parallel but not equal.
That's correct.
That's just like the schools at the time.
Yes, and actually, when we moved into even that move to Connecticut, we moved into an area that was all white, and my parents actually they wouldn't sell to my parents. Ooh. It was Andrea Simon from the Simon and Schuster family who stepped in and said, "Not in my community." No. And that's how we got this most wonderful piece of property that have privacy and a lake and 6 acres and woods all around us.
I'm so glad you brought that up because when I was reading this, I mean, I've spent a lot of time on the East Coast and Stamford, Connecticut, and I had that thought: how the hell did they get into Stamford?
That's how we got into it there, because they were pulling. As soon as my parents would see a property they wanted, they'd pull it off the market. And Andrea Simon heard about this and called the ministers and the real estate people and the community activists together at her house, and she was a powerful community woman and said, "Not in my community."
Wow.
Find them what they want.
Oh. And he found this wonderful place.
This wonderful property.
Absolutely wonderful property.
And it was even cool because they were actually in the building process when my parents got the property. So my mother got to put in all of her amazing touches in there. Yes, including her African mahogany wood that didn't have nails. They just interlocked.
And at that time, there's a man by the name of Branch Rickey.
Yes.
Who thought deeper and broader than all the other owners combined. And he said, if I can find a guy who can play the game well or more than well, and who has the guts to take the abuse that he's going to get.
And play great baseball.
Your father said, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
And he did.
He did. And a risk for both men, which is why this great art with Kadir, these two men are very serious because they are both taking a risk. Branch Rickey with the owners and Jackie Robinson stepping out there by himself.
Want to know what happens next in Testing the Ice? A true story about Jackie Robinson? You'll just have to stay tuned.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.
This is Conversations on the Coast. We're spending a wonderful bit of time here with Sharon Robinson, talk about her new book, Testing the Ice, a true story about Jackie Robinson. When we left, they were ensconced in this beautiful house in Stamford, Connecticut, thanks to the kindness of strangers, or they wouldn't have been there at all. And Jackie is nearing retirement, and there is on this property a lake. And the kids in the family and their friends use this lake like crazy. They swim in it, they row boats in it, and one of the things they would like to do is they would like to skate. And one of the odd things about the story at this point is that Jackie Robinson never goes in.
He never goes in.
Never goes in. And it's winter now. The lake freezes, and everybody wants to ice skate. Tell us that story.
When we reached the edge of the lake, Dad turned to us and said, "Wait." Jackie, David, Candy, Willie, Christy, and I came to an abrupt halt. Then he ran to the house and returned with a shovel and a broomstick. As we lined up along the lake's edge, Dad eased out onto snow-covered ice. "Dad, be careful," I shouted. "Don't fall in," David screamed. I grabbed Christy's mitted hand and squeezed. "What's wrong?" she whispered. "I'm scared," I replied, as reality suddenly dawned on me. My dad can't swim. Jackie Jr. twisted the cord attached to his sled. David, Candy, and Willie stepped closer to the edge of the lake. Dad went further out. The ice crackled beneath his feet. He took another step, then cleared the snow from his path with a shovel. From the cleared spot, he was able to tell how thick the ice was. Before he placed one big foot in front of the other, he tapped the ice with his broomstick, testing it for weaknesses or cracks. Tap, tap, tap. Dad took a few steps forward. Tap, tap, tap. Then he took a few more steps. But just as he was about to pronounce the ice safe, Boom! A terrible noise roared from below the ice. Dad, I shrieked. I was sure the ice was going to open up and swallow him. Jackie Jr. stood ready to shove his sled to Dad. David, Candy, and Willie inched closer to my brother. We waited for what seemed like forever.
And we're not going to read any more. That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. And that's the scene that justifies Nelson's description in an interview that the book is a metaphor for Jackie's life.
Correct.
Because he is always a man of courage.
That's correct.
And here is an act of courage that gets no headlines,
right,
but means a heck of a lot to you, your sibling, and all of your friends.
That's correct.
The man of courage is with us still.
Thank you.
A beautiful, beautiful moment. Now, you've been very busy with something called the Jackie Robinson Foundation.
Yes, we're in our 36th year. And we
The what? 30 who?
36 years.
Oh, I don't believe it.
And we support young people and colleges and universities across the country. But more importantly, we actually have a leadership development component where the students come to New York once a year for about 4 days. And we have seminars. We take them to the plays in New York. And then they do a lot of mentoring.
I couldn't agree with you more. That this follow-up program that you have is the most important thing.
That is the most important.
It's not just money for college and get a degree.
That's correct.
What happens afterwards? What kind of people are they going to be?
Right.
How are they going to make it
and how are they managing?
Yeah.
We have family sessions, and we also, our staff does one-on-one with them all throughout the year. And because of that, we have a 97% graduation rate, which we're very proud of.
Say that again, slow.
97% graduation rate from college.
97%?
Yes.
Oh, my word. That's incredible.
Very, very amazing.
That's incredible.
And right now, Jim, we're actually on a capital campaign to raise money for the Jackie Robinson Museum.
Okay.
So we have two things going on at once. We have our program, and then we also have the museum, which we hope to open in the next few years.
Where do you think it's going to be?
No, we have the space. It's actually in Manhattan.
We have the space.
Right, we have the space. Just west
you're
of
very
Soho.
Shrewd. You're very shrewd.
So we have to have this museum now because we have this space.
All right.
So it was a very exciting time for us. And for my mother. My mother is 87.
Wow.
And she is still in that office 2 days a week.
You're kidding.
And nothing happens without her having a discussion about it. So she's absolutely incredible, yes.
If one wanted to make a donation to the Jackie Robinson Foundation,
yes,
how would they do that?
Go to JackieRobinson.org, and they can then be plugged right into the Jackie Robinson Foundation.
And we'll let you know how to get rid of your money.
That's right.
Oh.
How to make a great contribution.
Well, I think you all out there should get rid of some of your money. Go out and buy Testing the Ice, a true story about Jackie Robinson by Sharon Robinson, illustrated by Kadir Nelson. It is a fantastic book. We're getting near that time of the year called the gift time, so go get it. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim Foster COC and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.